Hi, welcome to today's video and thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about your retirement blueprint. This video is all about people who are nearing retirement, say a decade away, or if you are in retirement, you want to pay attention to this because you can still make sure you do these things on time. Now, if you are, let's say, between the ages of 55 to 65, by far, this is your most financial important decade. You know, the big show is about to begin. The big show is your retirement. And just like getting prepared for any sporting event or like a big event that you have to be ready for, you've got to nail down a plan. How are you going to make sure you have the best outcome and have success? And so this video is all about me providing you these steps for you to take so you can have a fantastic retirement. And I'm going to be relaying them to you sort of by milestones, right? So we're going to be sharing with you what you ought to have had achieved or looked at by these certain ages, right? So let's get into today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Put your comments below, hit that subscribe button, and remember, hit that bell as well, because the algorithm has changed in YouTube. People say, I don't see your videos anymore, and I'm publishing videos. So you got to make sure to look at your subscriber list and find me there to watch the recent videos, okay? All right, this is your 55 plus, meaning this is 55 age, 55 and over, retirement blueprint. And so this is super important because you really want to nail down these planning ideas before you begin CPP, old age securities, before pension plans kick in. This is your window of opportunity to plan in order to make sure you optimize your income and prepare your portfolio's retirement. So let's look at these milestones, and then I'm going to do a deep dive into each one of these ages. Now, bear in mind, you should have all of these milestones already done, or at least thought of, in the first one, which is age 55, the planning window. So when you have this planning window, you want to be already thinking about, okay, what happens at 60, 65, 71, and 95? But I'm also going to share with you what are the actual bullet points here in terms of what you need to be thinking about and looking at, okay? So let's get into age 55. This is the planning window. This is where you start actually developing your plan. If you are retiring next year and you're just getting a plan done now, it's important to get it done, but know that you ought to have done it a lot sooner, because when you get a plan done, now we're just sort of saying, okay, let's make the best plan we can with what we have now. I could have looked at your plan and said, oh, wow, I wish I had met you a decade ago, because I would have had you done this, this, and this that would have made a better outcome for you. So the sooner you get started, the better it's going to be for you. Okay, map out the first one. Map out your expected expenses and income sources. When I've done seminars in the past, and I'll hand out these pieces of paper, and I'll say, write down your number one financial concern. And I look them over, and I know what the answers are going to be. The number one financial concern is, do we have enough money to retire, or can we retire? And the answer to that question depends on how much money you're going to spend in retirement. Now, if you don't have a lot of money in retirement, like less than $300,000 and no pension plan, it's likely you're going to be tough for you to retire. But for the people that have saved enough money, the question is it enough? And that is, well, depends how much you're going to spend. If you don't know how much your retirement is going to cost you, so all of these lifestyle goals that you want to have, where you're going to live and how much it's going to cost, how can you possibly know if you have enough money? So the first key here is to nail down, what is retirement going to cost you? If you don't know what that's going to look like, at least try to figure out what is the ceiling. So if you said, if we had $7,000 a month or $10,000 a month, that would be plenty of money. Then start with that and then work on what your plan is in terms of cost, okay? The next one is reviewing your pension options. If you're going to be retiring in the next decade, you want to know what are the key dates that you have. Your pension manager will be able to supply these with you. And this will be your earliest date that you can retire without a penalty, your earliest day to retire with no penalty. So those are the two numbers you want to factor into your retirement, because you could retire slightly earlier or you could retire at this age. So get those pieces of information from your pension manager. Know that when you do go into retirement, you're going to be presented with a number of options as to how much money you're going to receive in pension each month, and it'll be dependent on sort of this guarantee period. You're going to be provided with those ideas, and you can figure out with your advisor which one is the best for you. But essentially, it's just making sure that it's the right amount of money for you every month. That's really important. Start drawdowns of your RRSPs sooner. Now, many of you have thought of, well, you'll just defer your RRSPs to age 71 and then start your RIF minimum withdrawal. If by now, after seeing all my videos, if you don't know now that you should start your RRSP withdrawal sooner, then you've missed some of my videos, obviously. If you allow your RRSPs to balloon up to a certain amount at age 71 and then RIF your account, that means you have to do larger withdrawals from age 72 all the way through to the rest of your life in order to get through and use up all of your RIF money. And if you watch this video right here, you know I talked about this couple that died in the same year, tragic, and they had to pay $700,000 in taxes. Now, the RIF money was, or RSP money was around $350,000, we'll say. So if you can avoid that simply by doing a plan and examining what your withdrawal strategy will look like. And by the way, I'm going to show you a plan at the end of this video to show you exactly what a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy looks like. So I encourage you to take your RSPs as soon as possible. Reassess your investment mix for volatility and stable growth. Leading up to retirement, you had an income, right? You were working for a living. And when the market would go down, yeah, you don't want it to go down, but at the end of the day, you had a paycheck coming in. So it's kind of like you weren't that nervous about it. But as you begin to get closer to retirement, you start getting nervous about it. Once you're in retirement, I can tell you that just about everybody I've done a plan from switches their risk tolerance from a growth mindset to preservation of capital. It just is like happens overnight. It's almost like seeing a parent for the first time hold a baby in their arms and they realize, oh, wow, I have to change my life. I've got to get stuff together. Like, I've got this little thing to take care of now. I have a huge responsibility. That little baby is now your retirement. When you look at that and you say, no more paychecks coming in, I can't afford the market volatility anymore, it's keeping me up at night. You got to get this sorted out. So you have to talk to your advisor, do another risk tolerance questionnaire, look at the amount of equities you have in your portfolio, what kind of equities you have in your portfolio, and start to develop a proper asset allocation in your portfolio that measures both your goals and also you being able to sleep at night. Okay, age 60, you've now got up to age 60 and transition and timing. This is all about you're getting ready to pull that trigger and give your retirement resignation or retirement announcement. So there's some things you got to sort of figure out, right? And that is CPP timing. What age is the best age for you to start taking CPP? Only a plan, unless you can do the math yourself in an Excel spreadsheet. But when you actually change the date of your CPP, that changes how much money you should be taking out of your RSP, and it changes your state values. This one change to your CPP affects the other two things. So it's not just about the amount that you're going to get in CPP. It affects the other things like your investment accounts and the taxes on your estate. That's a harder thing to calculate. So I encourage you to get a plan done so that someone like me or another advisor that has planning software can give you the answers about what happens if you take CPP at this age versus this age and this age. I can tell you every time we make a change, instantly we can tell you about what happens to your investment accounts and what happens to your estate in terms of taxation and the longevity of your money. So it's very important to get that information from an advisor. Now, coordinating pension income, RSPs, non-registers accounts, TFSA accounts, LIFs, LIRAs, all these things, right? You have these accounts. It's important for you to understand where you take the money first out of which account. Many of you have, I get these emails all the time and they'll say, what account do I draw down on first? And the answer is never the same. Everybody has a different need for capital. They have different amounts in different, like in RSPs or in RIFs or LIRAs and LIFs, TFSA, big non-registered accounts. Some of you have pension money coming in. The other concern is, how do couples plan for a tax efficient withdrawal when their their accounts are wildly different. One might retire with a great pension but not a lot of money, and the other spouse has a big RSP and no TFSA. So like that plan is very different from two teachers retiring with two big pensions, very little RSP, very little TFSA, right? So that plan is very different from the other couple. So it's very important that you figure out the integration of your assets and how those income streams are going to roll into your hands during retirement. Insurance coverage. I talked about in that last video about this couple that passed away in the same year, and they had a $700,000 tax bill. And I said, why don't you just insure your tax bill? Put in term insurance at age 60. It was like $100 a month, $105 I think dollars a month to insure for $350,000. And that way, if you both passed away and you both had insurance, that would replace some or all of the money that would be lost to CRA. And believe me, you will lose that money to CRA. It goes out the door, and your beneficiaries will lose out. So if you just put in term insurance, and then as you get older and you don't need it, you can cancel it, and you've kind of put that strategy in place just to recover taxation money that goes to CRA. Long-term care, I see this in plans where people will say, can you do another planning scenario where we sell our house in our late 70s and move into a lifestyle community where they cook breakfast and dinner and lunches for you and so on, costs between $5,000 to $7,000 a month, and they want a plan to actually show whether or not they can afford to do that. And it's just simply ask the advisor, like myself, say, do another scenario, show me this, and compare both, right? Testing your retirement before budget in a practice here, I think that's kind of hard to do for many people. The main reason that is hard is because you don't have the psychological impact of retiring. It's simple for you to say, okay, let's go on a budget. Let's figure out we're going to live. If you take that 70% of retirement assets rule, which I don't think is worth it, but if you just did that and said, let's just live off of 70% of our income that we have today, can we do that for a full year? That would be so hard to do because the paychecks are still coming in, right, from your employer. And so the mindset, you don't have the emotional mindset of a retiree at that point. When you are fully retired, I can tell you that you will not want to spend your money. And I have to encourage you to spend your money because you're worried about running out of money. And it takes like 2 or 3 months for you to start to believe that the plan that you have, the amount of money that you have is actually working. So it's very difficult. So I might say to you, just try 1 month, see what that looks like in terms of a practice month. Okay, age 65. Benefits and lifestyle. We are talking now about where most people are now like really fully into. I'm taking CPP. The trend of late, and we'll say the last decade, is people are taking CPP at age 60. That was not the case. People were taking it at age 65. That was for the longest time. People were taking CPP at 65, and now the trend is they are taking it at age 60. I think the rationale behind that is more emotional. This idea that you've been paying into your CPP since age 60, and you say, or all your life, and now you're 60, and you go, you know what, I want it. It's money waiting for me. Let me get at it. And I don't know how long I'm going to live. Even though you might have longevity in your life, you say, things happen, right? Well, you need a plan that's going to show you what is the mathematical consequence of taking that early. How much money you're giving up. It's a permanent reduction to your lifetime benefit. It doesn't go at 65, go right to the 100% number. It is a permanent reduction all the way through. So it's very important that you examine your rationale behind why you want to take CPP early at age 60. Confirming CPP integration with other income streams. As I said in the other slide before, you may have pension income. You have RSPs that you're going to either do withdrawals or convert to RIFs. You have LIRAs that will convert to the LIFs. You have non-registered and TFSA accounts. And you might have rental income coming in, all of these things. Or you also could have a corporation. You have distributions coming out of your company. All of these things are very difficult for you to map out on an Excel spreadsheet. Some of you are savvy and love Excel spreadsheets, and I love it when you show up and we're talking about this and you've got an Excel spreadsheet. It makes my life a lot easier to figure out your life. But for those of you who are not that savvy, you're struggling figuring out how do we figure out what to take out of which account because there's so many different income streams. I wish you have that problem. It's a good, bad problem to have, right? But you need to figure out how do you integrate CPP with these income streams. Health coverage, dental, prescription, travel. This is important if you're going to be traveling, about having travel insurance, making sure you have the proper health coverage, making sure that you have all your prescriptions in line. What do you need in terms of coverage for healthcare as you go into retirement? Because when you decide to leave work and retire and come off of their benefits, now it's all on you in terms of how you're going to pay for certain things medically. So you have to consider what that impact to you is over your retirement years. Structuring your income plan for sustainable withdrawals and longevity. At the very end of this video, I'm going to share with you an actual plan where you can see a tax-efficient withdrawal strategy, and it's going to become obvious to you when you look at this plan that is a tax-efficient withdrawal. But you do want to make sure that when you've nailed down your expenses and you have your income, you start looking at, okay, if you take so much money out of your investment accounts and you have a given rate of return, is this actually going to go through my entire life, or is this money going to be exhausted and then I'll only be on CPP and OAS security? You want to know the answers to that question. So by making sure that you have a structure of how you do withdrawals. Now, we've talked about this on my channel. We've talked about the cash wedge strategy, the 3-bucket strategy. Recently introduced to you the 25-75 strategy. There's a lot of different strategies for you to figure out how to structure your portfolio for income. All right, now we're moving up to age 71. Now you're right square in the middle of your retirement, and you've got to be sure about, okay, let's talk about develop a withdrawal schedule that minimizes the lifetime taxes. Now, this is that part where I told you need to figure that out at age 55. But at age 71, this should be full on a strategy. When you see the plan at the end, you will see that plan started much earlier than 71. If you get started earlier and you're in the middle of your retirement, you know that you are tight with that strategy. It's saving you the most amount of money. You're not going to ever run out of money. You're feeling good. You're traveling. Hopefully you're healthy. Life is great. That's what we all hope for. But if you don't have that sorted out, it's going to cost you a lot of money in retirement. Review your beneficiary designations and update your estate plan and your will. It's not just your beneficiary designations on your investment accounts. You need to update your will, especially if you've got new grandchildren that came into the picture and you want to leave something behind for them. Your children have become married or even divorced. You got to figure out, did we change these beneficiaries to make sure that is done correctly? Not changing the beneficiary, let's say someone passed away, then your money could go to your estate and be a high tax bill. So you want to make sure you've got those updated. And I will just inject one other thing here that's not on the screen: powers of attorney. You want to make sure that you have that on each other, both for financial and for health, so that you can make sure you can make decisions for each other if something, God forbid, happened, right? Evaluate your charitable gifting or life insurance and estate preservation. This is actually an area where I think is very underutilized in plans. That my experience here in doing plans is the charitable gifting, it's not in many of your plans. And I want to encourage you to consider just adding that to your plan. Many of you whom I'm doing plans for have enough money, and I would encourage you to start thinking about gifting some of that money to charities. You can also have life insurance that would elevate your estate plan. It would also lower your taxes throughout your lifetime, and it's a great way for you to pass on money to the next generation. Okay, adjusting investment risk to align with income needs and time horizons. Now more than ever, at age 71, you are now changing, or have changed a long time ago, your RRSPs to RIFs. And it's now an income stream. And that money is being withdrawn every single month, right? Or on an annual basis, depending on your plan. And we talked before about this problem that might exist when you talk about the risk of investments and return. So this here is really talking about if you have negative returns in your retirement and they are successive, so 2 in a row kind of thing when you first begin your retirement, that is very detrimental to the longevity of your money in retirement. So you want to now align yourself with your goals, your income need, and also the risk of your portfolio so you don't suffer these big negative withdrawals in the beginning of your retirement. Right, this now is, I want you to just take a moment to pay attention to this because this is a tax efficient retirement plan. And I'm going to go through this so you can understand exactly what's going on, left to right, okay? On the left, we have the years, the age, the benefits. I've collapsed the columns, so this is the total between a couple. We've got actually this is the total, not between a couple, this is the total CPP and OAS of one spouse, okay? That's what we're looking at here, not a couple, just one spouse. We have the taxable income, tax on each year going through there, their marginal tax, their effective tax, and then we come into the financial assets. They have an RSP, a TFSA, and a non-registered account. Then we've got the house. The house for couples in a plan is, we break it up 50-50. So their house is, over $1.5 million in 2025. Their net worth is $1.7 million, and the tax on the estate is $350,000. That's the net worth. That's just split into half, right? So the $350,000, that's just representing the tax for the one spouse on their assets, and then the other spouse has their plan, and then we have a combined view. So this is showing you what happens when if we go to the left, when you defer CPP at age 70, it opens up this timeline from age 60. In this case, they're planning to retire at age 61. You can see this bolded number there. And so from 61 to 69, there's a timeline of where their income, they have no CPP, no OAS until 70. So there's a timeline that is afforded us where we can do these withdrawals in the RRSPs. This is your RRSP meltdown, so let's focus on that. You can see at age 61, we're taking $50,000 out, then 45 and 50 and 60. It's dynamic, right, in terms of how much money we're taking out, because their effective tax rate, which you can see there, is pretty static all the way through, because there are some years where they need to spend more money, or they have some income coming in, or we're leaning on the non-registered account to supply them with some money so we can lower the RSP withdrawal to not make the tax go up. You can see right over there on the right side, we have 4 years of withdrawals in their non-registered account to help supplement the withdrawals in their RSP, plus make TFSA contributions as well. And you can see they're making TFSA contributions throughout their entire life. In this plan, they're not actually using their TFSA. They're just going to be, this is a storage of capital here. You're taking the money out of your RSP, pay the tax that is associated for that year, spend what you need, whatever you don't need goes into your TFSA for the maximum amount for that year, and what is left over flows into the non-registered account. That is a tax efficient withdrawal strategy. Now, what I want you to do here to focus your attention on is on the far right hand side, you have the tax in the estate. Notice at age 60, the tax in the estate, this is presuming that both spouses passed away at the same year. Okay? This is how we can figure out what is the tax consequences. And in this case, you look at, for this person, for this one spouse, the tax is $350,000. The other spouse, they would pass away in the same year, they would have a tax as well, but just attributed to this one spouse, $350,000. But because we are doing withdrawals, melting down that RSP, you can see now the tax on their estate is gradually going less and less and less, because we're getting rid of the taxable investment account. That's the RIF account. And this is at 77. This plan goes on to age 87, I think, something like that. So by the time they're out, by that age, around 85 usually is when I try to get people out of their RIFs. They have no tax on their estate because there is nothing to tax other than the year that they're in. When they pass away, they have to pay tax on their income for that year. Beyond that, all the money's been taken out of the RIF account, spent and deposited to the TFSA account. You can see that TFSA account goes from $167,000 at age 77. It's at $787,000. They actually have more money they could spend if they wanted to spend in retirement. That's a tax efficient withdrawal strategy, and it begins by laying out this roadmap or this blueprint for you to figure out this is going to be the outcome. This plan is going to be the outcome. So at age 55, start planning for this outcome. That's the advantage of doing a plan, is seeing the outcome of your planning decisions well ahead of making them. So I encourage you to get a plan done as soon as possible. Okay, what did you think of today's video? Put your comments below. Here's a question for you. Do you have a clear plan to replace your paycheck once you stop working? Again, I really appreciate you watching today's video. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, and be well.